Happy Hour podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll be talking about ego versus heart today. Big topic.
Yeah.
Especially if you got big egos and big hearts.
Which is pretty much 99.9% of the population.
I got both.
Yeah.
I admit it. Yeah. I got both.
I got a big ego.
And a big heart. What's ego and heart to all of y'all?
The ego is the part of you. It's that part of you that, you know, for me anyways, I think it comes in handy when I need to defend myself or when I need to defend someone I care about. I think my aggressive side comes out more in the ego, I would say, than on the heart side.
What is the definition of ego? What is it?
I don't know what the definition is, but I'll try it out. This is one I scrambled with for a long time. I think it's the part of you that has to separate from everything and identify as a will, as an entity, as a something outside of everything else.
Mm-hmm. Your ego is like your persona.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's what I was going to say. It's your self-image.
Yeah. It's like that thing you project outside of yourself that protects you from everything else, you know? It's your pride, it protects your heart from being hurt. Yeah. Or it thinks it protects your heart from being hurt.
It thinks.
Yeah, I just looked up the definition.
Go.
Ego, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. The part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. A conscious thinking subject.
Well, Deepak Chopra says that it's the reflection of your self-image. It's the self-image you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you're getting defensive, let's say you're working from ego, you are putting in self-image out there. It's whatever you want someone, the way you portray yourself in a certain instance. It's like, it's a certain identity. It's not your spiritual, your true self, which would be your essence, which would be your spirit.
Yeah. And
right?
Absolutely. And I moreover, ego it's that part of you that just sums up all your experiences. When say you tap into fear or you have to think back to certain experiences, your ego is there to be like, well, you remember when this happened? Well, you don't want that to happen again, do you?
So is that where are you saying that's where your triggers lie?
Yeah. Your ego tries to protect you sometimes, but in doing so limits you in ways.
Mm-hmm. Because that's it. It doesn't, like, the ego, when you're talking about the sum of your experiences, it's all this stuff, like, you know, when you were a kid and you're building your personality, you know, you have kids are born. I believe that babies are born with a personality and you build on top of that, you know? Mm-hmm. But when you're building that, you have experiences and, you know, you remember whether it was happy or sad or what did you do or were you humiliated, were you things like that, and your ego is there to remind you of that. And that's why a lot of times we put ego and fear together and we tend to see it. I used to see my ego as something negative, but at the same time I realized that it was necessary. It's necessary for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the things that my ego protected me from for XYZ reasons, experiences, and so on, maybe I don't need anymore. You know, the task is to learn when to let go of your ego, I guess.
But not fully let it go. I totally agree. I would think that we're all born with our true essence. Mm-hmm. Whatever word you want to put to that, spirit or spiritual being, our essence, which is who we truly are.
Yeah.
And I think because of life, we learn things. We're a product of our environment. We are taught things. We experience things good and bad. And from there, our personality forms and experiences add on to our essence that never changes.
Yeah.
You know, and then from there, the ego gets built. And I agree with you, Dee. I don't think ego is necessarily a bad thing. However, I think out of balance, the ego could be terrible. And I think if you only function from ego, it's a sad thing and you're going against who you really are, which is your essence. So I think it needs to be balanced out. I think you need to go with your heart and your ego. because as we go on, there's things we don't need anymore. And I think the true purpose actually is breaking free from that ego, but we're humans. So completely breaking apart from ego, in my opinion, will never happen.
That's it. And not in the world we live in would be useful.
Exactly. But I think we use ego in places that we shouldn't, because we want to protect ourselves, because we have fear, because even when people are functioning from ego to obtain something, or they're being egocentric, actually it appears one way, but really there's fear behind that. There's insecurity behind that. Yeah. But I do agree that ego isn't only a bad characteristic, it's needed. But like everything in life, I think it needs to be balanced out.
I feel like the ego, like what you're saying, from fear, fear is the thing that's underneath all they claim is the lowest vibration that exists, and despair is essentially the being presented with fear and having no belief that you can do anything to keep yourself safe. So the ego, I personally feel isn't a bad thing, isn't a good thing. It just is a thing. It's like your spirit.
It's part of us.
If you want to think about, it's part of us. Yeah. It's like if they say your spirit is infinite and connected to all, and has its own identity as it merges into your point of focus, the part of you that steps up to the plate now are born with the eyes who receives information from other people's egos and from the reality, and then makes choices. Yes, I like this. No, I don't like this. I'm breathing in. I'm full now. I feel like I'm choking. No, I think it's time to let go. It's the part of you that makes all your decisions. And it has to be present in times of fear because it's the deciding factor. So when we start to operate, they say from ego, I feel like they're saying you're operating from a place that thinks, no, like a part of you that's just stuck on the no. Like, I'm not going to get what I need. I'm going to be threatened. I'm scared.
From a defensive.
Like what you guys are all saying, being defensive and having to protect yourself. The one that makes the choices on how you can protect yourself.
Lady Andy, how about entitlement? Well, I'm asking this to all of you. When people are like, oh my God, that he's so egotistical.
Right.
Or she's so egotistical. Someone's like, they feel entitled.
Yeah.
How does that fit into the ego?
Well, you want me to flesh it out?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna free flow, okay? We get ready, wiggity. I'm about to spit for your mind.
The me, myself, and I.
Me, myself, and I.
Syndrome, yeah, well, what's that?
I don't think the word entitlement either is a bad thing or a good thing. It just is. Like, you deserve to receive the resources that you need to continue to exist on this planet, whatever those things are. But when someone is working out from a sense of entitlement, it's a fear thing again. They feel they have something they want or they deserve, which they actually do deserve it. But they've learned a tactic of getting it by going out and demanding it.
Manipulating somehow.
And everybody does that.
I meant like, say you think you deserve it more than somebody else. Like, when does it become...
Too much?
How much is too much, D? How much is too much? When it becomes arrogant. Like someone's like, yeah, you know what? No, I got this more than the other person. It's me. Like, come on, it's me.
Too much for me is like Kanye West. Straight up, Kanye West. Kanye?
This does not reflect.
Great. He's a great artist.
He's a great artist.
Love him.
Right.
I love him.
Great artist. His music is awesome. And something that I admire from him is that he keeps dropping stuff. Even if an album is not necessarily as good as the previous one, he's not afraid to keep making music. A lot of artists will just stagnate. After they've performed or achieved what they will call their work of art, they will just, plateau or just, they'll be too afraid to drop something else, which he is not, which is great. But at the same time, it's like, dude, put your feet on the ground.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your feet are on the ground with everybody else, okay? So I think that for me, it takes away from
his artistry.
Exactly.
Well, but self-esteem, right? When is it self-esteem and when is it too much ego.
Well,
Like Kanye West.
Sort of what, I don't know about Kanye West. I feel like he's playing a role. I feel like he's playing a role. I think he's a very intelligent man who understands human beings and is like essentially playing. And he knows, he recognizes. The thing is, he is on a different strategy.
He knows how to get a reaction. I think personally, and he really
but he's
builds
playing
something.
on ego, and his ego is inflated to the
True, but
and
that's the thing. When is it self-esteem? When is it I'm confident? And when is it too much ego?
Well, that's what I was saying about, I'm going to just expand a bit on that, what I was saying before.
Yeah.
It's a fear. So everyone's beautiful, okay, in a way. They have something that's wonderful about them. Let's say Kanye West, someone like Kanye West, okay? Not scared of you, by the way. Can't do shit to me. Okay? But that said, you have this amazing talent flowing through you.
Yeah.
But now you've linked what you receive in the world to this talent. Like you've linked it, like it's a form of payment. It's like, I'm so fabulous that I can do these things and get what I want forcefully. That entitlement is forcefully like, this is mine, you know? So you're forcefully taking something, but you're excusing it off like, well, I can do this because I'm so XYZ. There's some women who are purely playing men cruelly, you know, beautiful, that stereotype. She's gorgeous, she's sexy, she has all the moves, but she's selling her own thing, the thing that's so special about her, so that she can go and get something forcefully by manipulating it from someone else.
And it would be something that she would get either way, right? It's not something that she needs to fear of not having, you know? It's just she would get it either way without having to be forceful.
We could all see like the good in ourselves, right? Like, oh, I'm this, and I'm that, right?
Yeah.
And we all have our moments. I think even today I posted something about fuck social media, I'm dope in person. I had my little ego moment. But
which is fine.
It's true though.
But that's the
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is that what I'm saying is that self-esteem where I'm confident in myself, or is that just egotistical?
Well, that would depend on how you feel about it. I mean,
I think I'm dope in person, man.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, who are you doing this for? I think it stems from that too, right? When people, okay, I'll take something like relationships on Facebook, let's say. Okay, it's like people that are like, oh my God, my love life is amazing. I love you, baby, blah, blah, blah. And they post every second of the day.
Ugh.
Chances are things aren't going so swell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
what are you trying to prove? Yeah.
Exactly. What are you trying to prove?
Oh, so that's what you're saying. So if someone's like keeps going, I'm the best, I'm the man, I'm this, I'm that, I got this.
If you're so good and you feel so confident about yourself, of course you can say it. If somebody says, hey, you look beautiful today, Asa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Period. She's not gonna go on a tangent of like, oh my God, I'm so happy you told me this because today my hair. No. Thank you. She can appreciate that.
And that's what you're saying, like the balance of that, because self-esteem, self-importance, that's something that I have learned, because before I felt like whenever I was patting myself on the back for anything, I felt like I was being arrogant, you know, and it was hard for me to, give myself props every now and then and be like, yo, that was awesome. And actually, girl, you look damn fine today. And that's cool too. And you can say it. And that's great. And like you said, someone compliments you and you don't have to make up for the compliment by saying something you didn't like. It's like, yeah, thank you for my hair, but I mean, like, my outfit is so, like, blah, blah, blah. I've noticed that people do that a lot.
Women.
And it's something that we've...
But you can tell when it comes, like, from someone who's so, who's
trying to fish for something.
Feeling yourself. You know, when I'm feeling myself. Yeah. It's like, I'm feeling myself, I know it, I'm full of myself.
Yeah.
But it's not full of myself in that I need you to recognize that I'm full of myself. It's like being glorious. Like, my life is so good, thank you, whatever, you know?
Thank you, universe.
Do you guys have ego moments though?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Okay, like, could you give me an example of an ego moment?
Okay, there's definitely ego moments in life in general, but when I write, I find that when I write songs, that part of me can come out and I don't feel bad about it. Like, I can be like, yeah, I'm the shit, I got swag, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's right, damn straight, I don't feel bad about it. You know, there's that part of me that comes out, and to me that's like a safe place, because I feel like someone who's gonna hear it, they need to hear that song one day and be like, they're gonna be singing it like, the swag, the shit, the bomb, you know what I mean? So it's cool, but in real life,
I feel like it's when I dance. When I'm just freestyle dancing with my friends or just at home even. If I catch myself in the mirror, I'm pouting and I'm like a little bit mean mugging. You know?
I could picture it.
You know? And it's like,
well, you've done it in front of me.
And it's just gonna be automatic. It's like I start dancing, it's a bam, right away that face comes out, and it's like I'm there, I'm out there. What?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
you put a little stank into it.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, when you mean like ego moment, are you talking about a moment where you're thriving in your ego, or are you talking about
either way? Like I could think of both. Like for myself, I could think of like an example of what like Dee said or Isa said, but then I could think about moments where I'm striving through my from my ego, and I actually taking in energy from my ego to do something. Like I've done that in business, tapped into my ego many times to succeed in something where it's like I feel that going out into the society, especially in a business environment, I've had to tap into my ego. Right? Why am I using the past tense? I tap into my ego, and that gives me the energy and the push to maybe accomplish something, and I'm definitely aware it's from my ego. And Isa touched on music. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sometimes artists also, you too, Dee, tap into sometimes the ego, like the alter ego, to perform. Let's say.
Definitely.
You know, so that's where I'm like, the ego's not always a bad thing.
It's
not.
You know?
It's not.
No.
And
well, I'm an alter ego essentially.
Yeah.
When I
Yes, you are Miss
This Lady Andy.
And it's awesome because I get to play out this ridiculous idea in my head. It's stories. It's just stories, and I get to play it out. So this is where I'll do it, but the
They're not ridiculous. It's part of. It's
Oh
part
no,
of
but
the
I literally, you guys haven't watch the day I get to a balcony and wave to the fans.
Okay, we have to say.
Do get ready, okay?
No, but I like.
I'm ready.
I like
I'll
how
probably
we
be right
touched
beside
on.
you though, waving.
The half wave.
Yeah.
I was taught not to wave fully. It will tire me out because you love me so much.
I still have to have energy for tomorrow. No, but I like how we touched on the compliments for women, because the comedian Amy Schumer, she has this skit called Compliments, where it's a bunch of women that see each other on the street, and they're like, oh my god, you have such nice hair, and the girl that receives the compliment goes on, she destroys us. I was like, really? I look like a wet dog. And she goes on and on and on and on, and then finally one of the girls gets to the group, and they're like, oh my god, I love your coat, and the girl's just like, thank you. And all the other girls just kill themselves. One of them sets herself on fire. The one walks into traffic. It's a really funny skit.
They're programmed.
But
only
it just
for this. Yes. What to do now? System is failing. System is
exactly.
failing.
Another question: when you got this,
it
doesn't matter if it's in work, with a man, like seduction, or something it doesn't matter what it is, but you're like, yeah, I got this. Do you think that's from your ego, or is that self-esteem, self-worth?
Both sides.
But once again, self-esteem and self-worth really does tie
your ego.
It ties into that, right?
Yeah.
So I do think, honestly, there's really rare moments where we're not functioning from the ego. I don't know, maybe when I'm asleep, I don't know, because
in your dreams you
There's
There are
moments in my
moments
life, and that's the other counterpart, the versus heart, where I'm absolutely not dealing at all from my ego, where it's strictly my heart.
From your heart, but it's a choice.
And my
you have
true
to,
essence.
But you still feel it there, and you're making that decision not to act from there.
Yeah,
right?
I'm telling the ego to check itself at the door.
That's it. That's what I mean. It's it's
not always though.
There.
No, sometimes
You know what I mean?
sometimes I didn't tell ego to stay at the door, and for some reason ego just wants to stay out, and all of a sudden my heart's just taking precedence in everything, and I'm like, yo, where are you, ego? Because I need you right now.
You know, it's funny.
Like, I need you to come in right now, and you're not, and I can't do anything to make you come in, and my heart's just, like, running for it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a marathon.
I feel you.
Why does that happen?
Well, sometimes, certain situations, they burst your heart wide open. You don't know what to do. But wait, before we go into the heart, you had asked if we experienced our ego not necessarily triumphantly. Yeah. And I remember my first experience that I really remember clearly, noticing that I was like, wow, I need to check myself, is when I was doing a show in high school. We were working on a musical theater production. And I remember I was having a terrible day, and in my mind, I had failed an exam, and I was tired of going to rehearsals. And you get to rehearsals, and it's high school. Some kids are not as serious about it, whatever, you know what I mean? And that's it. And that's okay. We're supposed to just be there and have fun, right? But I showed up at rehearsals, and I was upset, and it wasn't going fast enough in my mind. And I was like, this is some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I was having a diva moment. Yeah. But in the moment, it was entirely justified in my mind, you know? And at some point, my teacher stopped the rehearsal, stopped the run that we were doing, and he was like, Eza, look around you, you know? Mm-hmm. And I looked around, and there were 20 other kids, you know, from different ages, different grades, whatever, just there, like me, waiting to put the show together, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was just a big wake-up call, because I was like, wow, like, it's been 20 minutes that I'm making this way more difficult for everyone else because I was having a bad day. And in my mind, that was justified.
Well, that's where selfishness comes in, right? And that's part of unbalanced ego.
Well, that's what I mean. That's where I was like, wow, I need to remember that I'm not the center of the universe. Like, everyone else is here trying to make this happen, so I'm gonna take a step back. But I really, really appreciated my teacher. He didn't scold me, because then I could have gone home and felt sorry for myself and been like, yeah, he yelled at me, blah, blah, blah. No, he was just like, look around you.
But that's actually really, I love that he said that, because he said, he said, pay attention, come back to the present moment.
Yeah, and
that's all it was. That's really all it was. And what the ego does, and does well, because you need the ego to write books, and you need the ego to make information. The ego will create stories. That's how we live our lives. This is, which I don't know anything what she's saying, but I'm like, maybe she's thinking this, and what's she thinking? The ego does that. It's great. But when you run off you were justified for things like people should show up on time, and, things should go well. You're justified to have a good experience, but you had your stories running in your head, and you were reacting from them, and you were exuding a story out there, and you weren't being present, so you can't even catch the stuff trying to happen for you.
Exactly.
So that's where the ego comes in.
But that's a good example, because you just said time management, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. Someone doesn't show up on time. Mm-hmm. So the person that's on the receiving end, they're like, well, you're not showing up on time, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Which I actually happen to always be in that position. Because I'm always on time.
If Sybil's not on time, though,
there's a
call
problem.
911.
Yes, call 911, okay? Because I'm on time. All right?
Right.
So that could be perceived as me just thinking about what I want, right? And being like, well, it should be like this, blah, 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 blah. So it's me, Sybil, thinking that should be the right thing. Mm-hmm. And then not thinking, well, what could have happened with the other person, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But the other person, too, that could be perceived as selfish as well, because the other person's not being mindful of the person that's waiting on them.
Yeah.
So which one's really coming from the ego?
They're both.
But it comes from two different perceptions, because it's two different people, two different things.
Right.
The thing that I like that you said,
perception is a factor.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But perception is always, even for the other person too. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For the other person too, because I am chronically late. I need to get a t-shirt and a business card, But it's like the other person has stories going on in their head too. Mm-hmm. And they're self-perpetuating the same cycle. And I won't say struggling, but I want to change it. But I recognize that it is my ego that makes me do that. I'm not thinking really, I'm not feeling the other person's experience. You know, I'm not flowing in a harmonious way with that person because I'm stuck in my stories, but we do match each other.
Right.
So that's why when you're like, okay, then on the other side, I'll have a reaction. But if you you're maintaining the cycle and that you're not even necessarily paying it backwards to the person, which you are, or you're not, if you're holding it inside or something and you're not expressing, asserting, saying, this is making me feel this way, I wish this could change, you know, to yourself first and them, you're going to pay it to someone else. And they're going to pay it to someone else. So the ego talks to each other.
Right. I think when there's no accountability, you know, on either side, doesn't matter. Not in this circumstance. I'm just saying in any situation in life.
Yeah.
And it becomes selfish, I think you're acting from ego.
Yeah.
So when you're not putting yourself in someone else's shoes, you know, in this situation, even if it's not at the beginning, but then you're like, oh my God, I didn't put myself in the other person's shoes. How could they be feeling with what I said, did, whatever, right? Yeah. That's where it becomes selfish. You don't care. Yeah. You're doing whatever you want to do without any thought or feeling on the other person. That to me is selfishness, and that to me is functioning from ego.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I sort of agree with that, but first I want to make a tangent to all my people that are chronically late. I can tell you, you can fix it. Because I fixed it.
Yeah, girl, I gotta give you a high five.
You know what? You need to stop starting new things when you're early.
Oh yeah,
stop starting new projects.
Of that,
and you know what's gonna happen?
It's literally my problem.
Because you know what's gonna happen? You know what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
We're gonna start lying to you, telling you the appointment is at 5 when it's really at 7.
But you know what? The thing is, as someone who I'm gonna admit is chronically late too, though I am in the recovery process.
You are.
I'm in rehab right now, so every now and then I'm like, whoa, look at that, on time, 5 minutes early, that's great.
Right.
But I still find it amazing also when there's an understanding, you know what we're saying, like there's a consideration of the other person on both parts.
Right.
I have friends who, if we're meeting at 7:30, they're gonna be like, it's at 7, and then I arrive and they're like, hey girl, and I'm like, hey, and no one's mad, and we're good, and we catched a movie, we weren't late, they didn't wait around.
But that's cool, right? You know? But if you don't try to change it,
there's
right,
a problem.
and we have to keep lying to you, that's where it becomes selfish, because we're doing something to make sure you're there on time. But if you just say, well, you know, whatever, I'm going to just keep, because I've heard this from a lot of people, not about this situation, because that's just like, whatever, so many people live in this world. But like, you know, when people say stuff like, well, that's just who I am. Yeah, that doesn't mean there's not room for change or improvement or taking the time to look at something you're doing. You can't just, that's a cop-out to me.
It is a cop-out.
You know, where you're just like, well, that's just the way I am. Take it or leave it.
Well,
and I know the moments where I've said that in my life. I was angry and I was defensive and I was like, fuck the world. And it's when my walls go up, so I'm in major protective mode. I'm protecting, but you know, people that have their walls up, and I could speak out of experience because I had major walls up, walls of China. They're coming down. But if you have to put up walls like that and make your ego, inflate your ego, and because walls are also part of the ego. And you got to do all that is because you're protecting something very sensitive inside.
Right. Sensitive, or for some people it's really deep insecurity. Like people who I've seen are so out there, and you know that sense of superiority. Some people walk around with an extreme sense of inferiority, and you're like, okay, stop it, you know. And other people, it's the other
arrogance,
extreme.
but it's the same thing. It's
that arrogance,
self-esteem.
Exactly. It really stems from
wanting to hide.
Wanting
but that's what I mean.
So
that's what I mean about the walls. If you have a wall, it's because there's something you're protecting. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the wall. You're protecting something, right?
And it's good to have it, but man,
to a certain degree.
But the selfishness part, I feel
gets really lonely behind those walls. Let me tell you.
To go back to like the part about being selfish, sometimes though, you have even when you put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Right.
Even when you have that empathy, and even, you know, you love the person, you care about the person, you also have to care for yourself. And if the situation...
Yes, balance. That's where balance comes in.
If the situation is toxic or it's not working out for you, it's not helping you grow, it's not... You also have to care for yourself first, because nobody is going to care for you as much as you care for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
it's like that thing
but
on the plane.
self-love
Like,
to me is not ego.
That's it. But when they say,
It could be unbalanced.
if the plane is going down, put the mask on yourself first before you put it on the person next to you, on your child. Because if you're not able to breathe,
unless you have like some superpower.
Well, that's the thing.
then save the goddamn plane.
No, but that to me, that's where the thin line is, and I have sometimes this issue with people. There's a very thin line, because I agree 100% with what you just said, Dee. But to me, self-love is not from an egotistical place. I think people use self-love. They say, well, I'm thinking myself, it's self-love, as a cop-out to actually be selfish. There's a thin line. But what I think Dee was saying is absolutely true. First of all, you can't even love somebody. You think you can, but you can't if you don't love yourself. Exactly. You could not feel what unconditional love is if you don't even go through your own lessons of loving yourself.
You can't give what you don't have.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, that is not egotistical. However, like I said, some people use that. I'm not going to help. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not blah, 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 blah. And the list goes on, because I'm loving myself. I've heard this, and I've heard it from pseudo-intellectuals. I've heard it from people that pretend to be spiritual, and they're not.
That everything gets, everything and everybody at any given time in their life is playing on the balances of any meaning. Love gets perpetuated. Well, there's
also fraudulent people out there, you know.
I feel like everybody has fraud in them. We have to lie to ourselves sometimes to deal with life. Some of the
true, but some people live their whole existence like that.
Some people do get stuck there. They do, for sure. And let's say two people meet something. They're both matching up in a weird way. So a woman and a man, they're in a relationship. And let's say the man isn't adoring or loving or providing loving attention towards the woman in the way that she feels she deserves. She is coming from a place of, you're not giving me what I need, what I want. This is what I want. She didn't walk in there from she was more balanced, and where in that was concerned, she probably wouldn't be running into that situation. So she has a thing going on somewhere.
She's asking him to fill her cup. In a way.
So if she realizes, I'm in a situation with somebody that I love, but this person isn't giving me the love I need, the love I want, in the way I want it, then the person deserves to get the love that they need and want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In the first period where you are now finding out that you guys both have limitations somewhere, because the guy could grow. The guy will definitely grow from that experience.
Sometimes slowly.
Yeah, and sometimes we get lost and take things for granted.
And there's she's asking him to go into where she is. Feel how I'm feeling. But she has a story running. Imagine if he could fly into her body. Imagine if you were able to go in and step in the person's shoes. You're walking into someone who's angry, who's enraged about the situation, who is still you bounce out. Nobody wants to be in there. The guy can't even, he's like, okay, can I love you now? And you're terrified. He's terrified to love you because you are on him. In the moment that she's recognizing that, because I've been in this situation, in the moment that I had recognized that this is where I was, I had a right to express that I wasn't happy. I had a right to express it and all that. But then I was reacting from that place. I was reacting, not responding. I didn't fill my cup, and I wanted him to do it for me. And I knew before I could expect him to do that, I needed this love. I had to find where I was going to access it. I needed to get the love that I needed to feel. I need love. I'm not going to force him. I'm going to get my love, and I will make my own boundaries. When I broke myself out of that cycle, I said, I'm not getting this. I told him what I needed. I said, if you can't give it to me, I'm not looking for it from you anymore. And I love you. I don't want to you to disappear from my life, but I need to find my own. And when I released him, I became more at peace. And I was ironically getting what I needed from different sources. And that's when, strangely enough, he turned and changed. So that's why I was using the metaphor of jumping into the person's skin. Because even if I'm asking him to jump into my skin, feel me, be here with me, see what I'm feeling, I had actually neglected to do the same for him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, because there's a mirror, right?
There's a mirror. Yeah. I didn't do it. And you know what? He had a story going. He had a story why he wasn't giving me what he wanted. And it was also perpetuated upon another story, which was, oh my God, she's unhappy. I can't make her happy. I'm trying, I'm showing her the ways I know how. I'm limited, and she's mad at me, and she's making me feel low, and she's saying things that are cruel. That was his story, and I realized, shit, I'm doing that. It doesn't matter the chicken or the egg. At the end of the day, if you want something, you gotta decide when you're gonna get out of the story, when you're gonna change the story, when the ego is going to change the story from I'm lacking to I actually can receive. Yeah. Because I deserve it.
And I totally agree.
Thank
you for sharing that. I think that's a super valuable.
Thank you for letting me say that out loud.
Super valuable life experience to share, Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But unfortunately, on the flip side of that, there are some people that, are selfish, and they really do not put themselves in other people's shoes and do not take responsibility for their actions.
Right.
They don't. They think about themselves in the moment and how it pleases them, and they do not think of the other person.
Well,
it's me, myself, and I.
They can't, and I don't think they're even with themselves.
Yeah.
Someone who's really selfish, a person who's really selfish, isn't with themselves.
I agree.
Isn't with themselves at all. They're not even with me, myself, and I. The reason that they're selfish is because they're not with me, myself, and I. Their cup is empty.
Yeah, and I think somewhere inside of them, they feel empty.
Yeah,
they're always seeking.
And sometimes if they're seeking, then at one point maybe they need to just if they can have enough reason to stop the selfishness.
The cycle.
They can. There's a period of time of grace where everybody needs to heal from themselves.
Yeah,
if they're cruel, if they're whatever, you don't go from being cruel to the next day because you wanted to. Oh, okay, now I'm good.
I'm done. Because there's the guilt of having been cruel and all the other crap that follows up with healing.
And I feel you match up with people along the way.
Yeah.
You match up, and that's why sometimes, if this person hadn't given me what I needed, I was selfish in my screaming and my guilt tripping. I really was. I was some fucked up. I was like, whoa. It was hard to see that I did that. Because you don't want to think that you're a culprit. Because you're in victim mode. But when I saw it, I had to I need time to heal. But it didn't go overnight,
No,
It didn't happen overnight. But it was a
it's a process.
Yeah. And then you quantum leap out after a point.
Yeah. But I like what you're saying. The ego is that part of you that is separate. And we do need that because, we are walking in our own bodies and it is all about perception. But that part of you that thinks that you're alone in the world, that you are, that's it. You're all that matters, really. That's it. And letting go of the ego is remembering just how connected we are. Just remembering that your actions do affect you, and the
people
world.
We don't even know.
Exactly. We're all moving as one. And it's funny. It's the concept is still a bit lofty in my mind sometimes. Sometimes I'm okay, we're all one. Great.
I just want to stab a piece of myself right now. God, close your eyes.
You know what I mean? But it's true. It's true that it makes sense to me, the idea that your ego is that part of you that lives in that separateness and fails to see the other.
Yeah.
They're just the rest. When I was a kid, when I was younger, when I was 7, 8, I was a very selfish kid, and my big sister, I remember one day, she sat me down and she's like, you need to start looking at the world around you. You're not the only person. You're not the only thing, I'd be like, get over yourself,
Get over yourself.
And it was so, it wasn't anything special had happened that day. It was just me being me again, just I don't know, just pouring juice for myself or just something just for me.
Not asking somebody
exactly.
else.
And I remember that conversation, and I remember catching myself later being selfish, but it was like before that moment, I couldn't catch myself because that's just who I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't separate myself from that thing because, there wasn't being selfish. It was just doing
me, myself, and I.
Yeah, but in the sense that, like you were saying, Lady Andy, like, if somebody's cruel, if doing cruel things is part of your life, you don't even necessarily see it as cruel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyways, I remember...
become immune to cruelty.
Exactly.
In a way,
I saw that, I remember that moment, and I remember catching myself later and be like, I don't want to be that kid. And...
Changing the story.
It's fine. That's
awesome. But that's where I'm saying that's when I said before that, people that cop out and go, well, that's just the way I am, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
That's a cop out because there's always room for improvement, change, or anything. Just like Dee said, I could change being on tag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding with you guys, but not. Anyways.
Yeah.
But that's for everyone, and I'm talking for myself. There's always room to improve or check yourself or anything. I think that's the biggest part of why we're here as humans, right? In these bodies is to figure that out and balance ourselves.
Yeah.
And then, that could take us right into the other side, which is the heart.
Yeah.
What is the heart besides the organ itself?
It's everything else.
And then you were talking about your essence, your heart is it's that truthful place, and I think that's where really the truth lies, even if it hurts. Sometimes you're gonna be...
Oh boy, it's hard.
Yeah, you're gonna be, you're gonna be feeling and, thinking, if that makes any sense, thinking from your heart.
And sometimes it's amazing.
Right?
I think it could be amazing sometimes and the best feeling in the world.
That's it.
But then on the flip side, it could be the most hurtful struggle ever.
Yeah, that's it. And that's when it's the battle between ego and the heart. And I feel like, my heart ties into my intuition, and my ego is that loud voice in my mind sometimes when you're not sure, you're trying to make a decision, and usually my ego's like, you're crazy! Are you gonna do that? Do you remember doing that? That was crazy. You're not gonna do it. It's gonna hurt. Oh, go ahead, do it and see what happens, And
so would you say ego is the mind?
It lives in the mind, I think.
Yeah.
And I think my heart,
like it's kind of governed by the mind.
Yeah, and my heart is more quiet, but a little more steady, and it's just
right.
It doesn't yell.
It doesn't yell. It doesn't need to yell. You know what I mean? It's just sitting there on its
mine
throne,
yells sometimes.
Oh yeah.
You know what? It's true. When you ignore your heart, sometimes it's like beep.
No. Sometimes the ego gets involved, and you're like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have quite a bit of moments like this.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yep, that's it. Nope.
Done.
Nope. Done. Finished. I've had it. Blah, 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 blah. My ego's just like there. And my heart's like really loud. Like, you know better. You know that in 2 days, you're not going to feel like this. You're covering up for the truth.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And now it's like the more I advance in my life and the more self-aware I am, the louder my heart becomes.
Okay.
And my ego's like battling. Yeah, my ego's like, shut the fuck up, heart.
Yeah.
But then my heart's like, yeah, you don't need to understand mine. Sometimes the heart knows things the mind cannot understand.
Most times. That's the thing.
And the more I'm self-aware, and the more I come back to my true essence, right? The more like I said, the more my heart is loud, and sometimes louder than my ego.
That's funny. I just feel like sometimes it's like a tantrum. And for me, I don't know if my heart yells, but I do feel like it's like the ego's the child having a tantrum sometimes, and the parents just there watching, letting the kid kick and scream and like throw stuff and like whatever, and then when they're done crying and they're just like,
are you done yet?
And and it's like, are you alright? Are we good? And then my heart's like, okay,
so let's proceed.
Exactly. You got it out of the way. Moving on.
Moving right along.
But I think that also the heart is where you're vulnerable. You know? And
definitely
the ego doesn't want to be vulnerable.
No.
Like Lady Annie said,
enemies.
You know, it's like the heart lives now, you know, in the present, and the ego takes your past experiences to protect you from a story that could happen.
And could lie to you.
Yeah, and it's not like necessarily happening right now.
No.
But it could happen.
Yeah.
So we have to take all the steps possible to block that thing to happen from happening.
And when
you know?
reacting from that place, you're likely to create the very thing that you're trying to protect yourself from.
Yeah.
And that's why I find your heart
So
is
true.
not afraid to be vulnerable. That's why sometimes
There's power in that.
But when we talk about matters of the heart, we talk
Yes.
often about, relationships, right?
Yeah.
And I know that oftentimes when I'm arguing with my boyfriend, it's like, okay, so I don't want to give in. He doesn't want to give in. And we're just like, no. And then at some point it's like, my heart is like, girl, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like, it's fine.
But I think that's with everything, right? Like, I don't know. That's where I'm like, where does conscious also lie in the heart? Because it's like, I could have a full blown out argument with a lover, with a friend, with a family member, it doesn't matter. And it's like you said, after a while, I'm like, but I love you though. Does this really matter?
Part?
You know what I mean? At the end, it's like love rules, right? My heart is like, when you weigh it out, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, all right. And when I'm protecting myself, my ego's protecting my heart. Right? But at the same time, my ego wants to win. Yeah. So it's a messy situation, right? But it's like at the end, it's like that's like all of this is really not worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know? And my heart will prevail.
I have a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
Just in the more like day-to-day experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys can think of any situation where ultimately your heart has prevailed over the ego, where it was like a difficult, it was a battle. It was a battle and a half.
It happens to me every single day. Especially in the last year, I'd say last year of my life, just because it's been a big spiritual awakening for me. So I'm on the path of like really discovering, a lot of things and self-awareness. So like I said, I think that when that happens, ego starts.
But do you have like a specific situation that you could think of?
Yes.
You want to share
that you want to share though, at all of you?
Where what do you mean? Where my heart prevailed? I could think of two. I could think of with a man.
Okay.
Where I had to learn unconditional love. And there's things that normally my ego would not accept ever. Coming to the realization that actually truly loving that person has nothing to do with my ego. So the things that I hold on to, realizing that I'm coming from my ego place, and as much as it's a self-satisfaction in the moment, it's like a fix in the moment to be in my ego. I'm protecting myself, but protecting what?
That's a good question.
I'm protecting what? Love? I mean, even if my ego's there or not, the love's not going anywhere. So it's coming to that. The second one I'm thinking about is friendship. Same thing. Very similar. It's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, all these points. I have all these points. I could sit there and I have this point and I'm mad about this and I'm hurt about this and this and that and that. And then you think about it, and at the end of the day, you just absolutely love that person. And then you start thinking about all the things you love about that person. And would I not want to have this person in my life? No, that now starts outweighing.
Yeah.
So then my decision, I'm like, okay. All those other things have to not saying swept under the rug, but they don't have the weight that I initially put in them.
Yeah.
It's because of fear, of getting hurt, of this, triggers, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's realizing that, and then realizing the honor you have towards that friendship.
Yeah.
I feel you. Oh, did you want to?
Yeah, no, I was gonna give an example, but it was more about work. I was given a project to work on, and I was excited about it. I remember being excited in my ego, like I was proud. I was like, yes, I will do this. It's excellent, amazing.
Yeah.
And then time goes by, and it's soon gonna be time to put up the project, and I finally hear my little voice that was really quiet.
Yeah.
My little heart that's like, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
Yeah.
And the voice wasn't even sad. It's like, you don't want to do it. It's not for you. Period. It's
Intuition?
Yeah, but like my heart, and it was so hard to let it go for so many reasons, but one of them being that I was so proud of having been chosen for that project, you know? But at this end of the day, it's like, if you don't want to do it and it's not for you, you have to let it go.
That's
right.
it.
And initially, I should have slept on it and I should have said no. I shouldn't have let my go. Like, I've learned a valuable lesson,
Yeah.
But honestly, it was hard. But when I let the project go, it was so freeing. It was like I was liberated. And my heart was like, yeah, we're good. You're good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
But
it.
I think intuition does come from the heart.
Yes, absolutely.
To me, the connection, and I'll go into an example, the connection with the heart and the ego are kind of like they cannot be disentangled from each other if you're going to live this life.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be like a vegetable. Like Jill Taylor, she had her situation, the stroke of insight, where I think one part of her brain shut down. And so she felt like she was in this complete heart space, and she felt that feeling. But she came back, The heart is, to me, like, it's the connection. It connects to everybody else's heart. It's what bounces off and flows in, and it connects to source, quote unquote. The biggest part of you, all of you, is connected. So that part of you knows you're safe.
Yeah.
We're talking first world talk now, okay? But I'm not talking to anyone in no world talk country. You should not be listening to me right now. Like, you're living a real life that's real.
In each of our lives too.
And even in those environments, but
That's
I can't
it.
speak for them, so I won't even go there being sensitive. But the ego has to make choices. The ego really has to say, oh, this is information. This feels good. It doesn't feel good. And you are limited in your perspective. It's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You are not your higher self. That's not what, you are part of it.
We would be spirit.
You would be spirit. And that's not what we're programmed at this time as.
Yeah.
So you will bounce off, right? But for me, when I had a heart moment in that situation, it literally was recognizing that even though my ego standing here is feeling pain, is feeling lack, is not getting what she needs to do, what she needs to do, I was feeling lack. My heart knew I was safe at every moment, that I had access to the things I needed, and that I was trying to force, my ego had taken the power of story to create an outcome, and rather than surrendering and allowing my heart to deliver me to where I needed to get what I needed. So I was forcing somebody who was not equipped to match me at that time out of a compassionate place. If I had really stepped in and seen, I would have stopped punishing because it wasn't equipped. But by having a heart space for myself and now recognizing and receiving everything I needed, it gave, I don't know how it is, but it seemed to bounce off the other person. I think when you love someone with the ego and you're like, I'm pulling you with me, that's an intention made. And
you love from the ego?
I think you can. Well, the ego knows what feels good and doesn't feel good.
Right. Okay.
So the ego is just that's love. Like, okay, this feels good. I'm gonna, this is in alignment with what I'm about.
Yeah, that's how you get quick fixes.
That's where you get sex is love.
Yeah, but your heart will tell you if you're not listening and you're like, if you're babbling stories, you're not hearing the guidance. Your heart,
No, your ego looks out for you too, but in different ways. But
different ways.
It's like we talked about, like fear. You know what I mean? If you see a freaking lion,
clearly.
and you're there in the beauty of the nature, how we're all connected and blah blah blah, you got that. Run.
Can we just touch on that? Because I'm fascinated. I've always been my entire life about people who live with big animals or who have access or who have.
Because they say they don't attack if they don't sense fear.
But that's the thing. The lion. Okay, let's keep it real.
It's real.
The lion is fucking hungry, dude. Didn't eat. You're not running into a lion who has not eaten for a week.
You're not running into a lion.
No. Okay, most general people, but those who are. Let's say you are. Okay?
I'm not putting it to the test.
Let's say you are.
Okay.
Your heart, like so you're living from your heart. Okay, you're thumping, and the grass is recognizing you. All right. So you walk out somewhere, and then you see a lion. It's far enough for you to kind of figure what the hell you're gonna do.
My life.
If that lion is not a threat to you in that moment, which is most likely going to be the case. But let's say the lion is full, because the lion's not always trying to kill somebody.
No, they sleep like 23 hours a day.
You know? The lion ate. This is gazebo, like gazelle fest.
Listen, I'm not sticking around to see if he ate or not.
No, but that's, you're not even programmed for that. Okay. But there's some people who are like programmed to experience a lion. Okay.
Yeah.
If you
great people.
No, but I'm trying to figure it out though. Let's say you are not afraid because you don't get the instinct to be afraid. Maybe you're not called to be afraid, and you don't start ego like, oh my God, that's a lion. For some reason, you're not. You might run into that lion that doesn't kill you. But if you're going from your ego too, you could be like, I've been around lions my whole life. I don't need to check with myself.
That's it.
You know, I don't need to check with myself. So I'm the Lion King. Hey, you lion, high five.
Ego moment and bow.
Yeah,
you don't need to get eaten then, and 10 years later, like the
crocodile.
Yeah,
that's it.
See,
I agree with this. Me, I see a lion.
It's like
I'm probably gonna run.
Look, it's like those horror movies, like when people are like, there's a sound in the basement. People that say, my house is haunted, and they stay there 10 years, I'm out.
Seriously, I'd be like, this
I'm
house
out.
is so...
Yes,
but
that's right. I have fear, and I have no problem to say I'm scared.
You're not programmed to deal with those things. You're not. You're just not. You're not ready. You didn't.
There's
do
some
that.
great, like I said,
there's some people.
Yeah, and then boom, they get eaten up.
Great grandfather. They've all been talking to. Spirits, and you learned how to talk to spirits. So you walk in, you're like, oh, he's just having a tantrum. I'm cool. I'm protected.
Whatever.
But that's not me.
Whatever.
I can't watch Blair Witch Project.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. So exactly, it's the sum of your experiences. You filter through that. Like the ego's your filter, but at the same time, it is important. I do think it's important to, as much as possible, live in the heart and like let your heart guide you.
But don't go to a lion.
Question.
You have to be rational too.
Yeah. Question.
Yeah.
Were you more successful? Honest question, really honest. Were you more successful when you did something from your heart or you did something from your ego?
Personally, I started being successful when I started doing things from the heart.
Yeah.
When I accepted who I am and who I want to be, and stopped being like, oh, but according to that chart, you're not successful. According to this and that, these people are gonna... When I stopped doing that, when I was like, but this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do, and like kind of follow my intuition in decisions and things like that, this is when I became successful. But then again, you know, relating with one of our previous episodes, success, the notion of success has also changed with me. You know, when I changed from being in my mind all the time to my heart, you know, involving my heart and trusting my heart.
That's a huge part.
My heart.
Yeah, trusting. Wow.
Then, you know, my notion of success has changed. And yes, I am more successful now than I've ever been.
Same here. I think that most of my life, I didn't realize, because I am very analytical and very in my head a lot, but most of my life I've been just following my heart, you know, like I've just been
true artist,
you know,
true artist.
It's funny. It's like I never thought of it, and I didn't think that was the case, but
that it was a thing.
You know, exactly, because that was just the way I lived, you know. But after also meeting a lot of people that, you know, are just as passionate and just as driven and just as, you know, they have their own vision of what they want, but they're not necessarily trusting it or going with their intuition or their heart. I see the difference, you know, and I remember doing a project, and at the time I was, in my mind, it was like, this is right. This is the right thing to do in my life at this moment. This is what I need to do. You know, stick to it till the end. But my heart was like, girl, just, it's okay. You have to go now. You have to go now. And it took me a while to really give myself the time of day with that. And I feel like I did pay the price because I didn't listen sooner to my heart. That was whispering to me, but down the line, for everything that I worked for, yes, it was important in that moment to follow my ego and my expectations of what I'm supposed to be.
You learned something.
Exactly. I learned something. I learned something very valuable. But ultimately, to answer your question, yes, I think that living from the heart has not only brought me success, but in living from the heart, I'm aware that there are things that are not within my control, but those desires that are in my heart are there for a reason, and I have to see where they lead me. And usually that never fails.
Wow. It's like trusting in the timing of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the same here. I mean, in different endeavors in business and just day-to-day relations. Like when I started to really live from my heart, I started to success in small things. Like I have a situation with my phone. I pick up the phone, I call the company. I'm not likely to be on hold forever, and I'm not unlikely to reach that one asshole who's having a bad day. I have like really great experiences everywhere I go. Go to the shop, it's efficient. I go to the bank, it's efficient. Most of those things have ironed themselves out for me. And like when I do have a bad situation and I'm in a bad place, it is the time I'm gonna get that one guy who is not gonna give me anything at 9 o'clock, like 8:59, and leave me stranded in a situation that I can't fix. In work and business, I used to do the hustle, and I always, I don't know, maybe I'd get what I wanted. I would have like the little pat on the back, a raise here, promotion there, that stuff would coming, but I was always miserable in the receiving of it. Like I'd get the raise and it'd be just misery, pure misery. Going from the heart has been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge where that's concerned, but more and more I feel I'm on exactly the right track. I meet the right people. I feel good about my decision. So I think that answers your question.
I like that.
What about you, Sips?
I'll be honest, I'm battling that quite harshly because I know from theory and intellectually and spiritually speaking, living from the heart is the right way, quote unquote. However, I have to be honest, when I wasn't living from there, when I was living more from my ego in the past, I had a lot of things that I consider successful, and I had much more moments in my life that were happy. And since I started a path of living from my heart, I've had extreme highs and extreme lows. And it's been a roller coaster ride. Some of the best moments in my life began when I started living from my heart, because I guess I was able to receive love more openly and submit to that, so to speak. However, it's been a very big struggle for me because a lot of challenges in my life, and I find it very difficult. And there's a part of me that wishes I could go back to who I was and not live from the heart, but for some reason life is not allowing me anymore. And I think it's because once you're aware of certain things, you can't go back.
That's it.
But I cannot sit here and lie and say that it's peachy and it's great and I feel amazing about it, because that's absolutely not true. So I'm still in a battle with that, because I know, my soul knows.
That's it.
That's as far as I am right now. My mind doesn't at all, and my heart a little bit. But it's really just my soul at this point, because it's just my soul. So for me, it's hard. I can't really answer that question better than that, really.
I think it's
a
more
transition.
gratifying. Like
it's a harsh one though for me.
It is. It is harsh, and I agree that it's not all peachy keen. But I think that the sense of peace that arises from living within your heart sometimes is knowing that down the line you are being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And you are coming from your essence, and we're also shedding a lot of crap, and that hurts.
And that's I think that's hard.
That's the ongoing battle for sure. Ego versus
and
the
what
heart.
comes with that. Sometimes everything needs to shatter, and man,
it sucks.
that's hard. And sometimes you sit there and you wish you could go back. And it happens to me every single day where I'm like, you know what? I wish I had my old life. I wish I could go back to who I was. I remember having way more laughter, being able to do things that made me really happy. And now it's like, it's a struggle, man. It's a real struggle. And that's the honest truth. Like,
I hear you, but you are choosing, right? Like, you could go back. I mean, I know what you're saying, but there is the thing where it's like, you take the red pill, it's done.
Could I be honest?
Yeah.
I've had moments where I actually literally tried.
Yeah.
And literally, things have stopped me.
Yeah.
So when I mean like I can't go back, people, I mean I can't go back. I've tried to.
Right.
But literally things in life stop it. And I'm like, wow, that's where I really started realizing, like, this is not a joke. Like, once you take that pill, there's
It's
no
done.
going back.
Okay, I'll give you an example, okay? This makes me think of when I go hiking with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, we did a 5-hour hike, okay? So it's like 2.5 hours. When you're going, okay, even if you're halfway, and then you had a great time, you saw the scenery, it was great and everything, and then you're exhausted. You have to walk those 2.5 hours back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like this is where you're at. You know what I mean? It's like you have to go through the walk, and you're exhausted, but nobody can come and get you. You don't have cell phone service. There's no helicopter. There's nothing.
But you have
to do that walk to get home.
But you know what it is?
Yeah,
with
like
when
that.
you live from ego, you have concrete proof.
Yes.
Right? When you live from heart,
Okay.
okay, you have to have faith. That word, faith. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm really. It honestly, people, that is my biggest challenge in my life.
Faith.
I am being tested at every single corner, crevice, level, layer, any way you want to put it. My faith is being tested. When I mean faith, I don't mean faith in God. I don't mean faith in a spiritual, just belief. Believe. And that word faith, when you live out of your heart, you have to have faith. You have no choice.
And you have to accept that you
Okay,
don't
and
know.
you not, but when you live from ego, it's like you have constant proof, and that proof makes you go further and further and further and further, right? And that's what I was gonna ask actually, Deanne, because you said trust. How do you know when to trust your heart? That it's your heart giving you the answers. How do you know?
I feel like I had to, did you want to ask?
No, go ahead.
I'm asking all my friends.
I feel like I had to trick my mind. Literally, that's
You trick
I
yourself.
had
That's
to trick
how.
my mind.
That-
And don't get me wrong.
Thanks for that.
It was successful beyond my wildest dreams.
Wow.
But you still got to learn it again. The shit pisses
Explain
me
though.
off.
What do you mean?
Well, I heard something because you said the ego, when you go from the ego, you get proof, right? But sometimes you get to a point where it doesn't matter how much ego you apply, you're no longer getting that fix. It's like the drug is wearing off. It's no longer efficient. And now you're like free falling.
Yeah.
There's nothing coming up. It's a free fall. And I heard that, when you're at that point, sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is my goal. And then you have to identify for yourself manifestation. For you to get faith, you have to create it. Like, let's say you need $100. And if you're trying to get yourself out of I need proof for me to get out of the faith, because that's the opposite of faith, So you're sitting there, you're miserable, it's fucked up, everything sucks ass, and you're fucking at the And then you see maybe your TV, something goes on, and they say $100. You are the one responsible for yourself to say, okay, that's evidence. Even though it's not what you want,
A sign.
you need to create paths for yourself.
Yeah.
If you see 25 cents on the street, you pick it up, you say, oh, thank you, that was evidence. You are actually you're actually tricking your own mind into redefining what manifestation means, which is expecting before it shows up.
And
by
being
knowing
thankful for it.
See, faith for me is free falling. I'm like, that's what I feel like I'm doing. When I have faith, it's like I'm free falling, and I just have to have faith that at some point I'm going to start flying.
Well, I really want to offer, and thank you for everything that you shared today, especially Sybil talking that she needs faith right now. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who are looking for some faith, who are trying to do that. And I hope that you find if this exercise that I did offer is something that you can give yourself the humility to just do. I do hope that you find little fun proofs, because it starts to become fun.
Yeah.
Fun little markers along the way to your manifestation, and you can feel proud of yourself because you know that you did that.
Amazing.
Wishing that for you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and we're wishing that for everyone listening.
Myself
At home, on the bus, in the pool, wherever you're at, having a drink, listening to us.
I need a drink.
Absolutely. We really want to thank you for tuning in every week like this. Our conversations
dig a little deeper.
Exactly. They get more interesting and deeper, and we're just excited to have you guys on board.
And we're talking from the heart.
Exactly. So if you guys have any questions you want us to tackle, and you let us know also.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? How do you make the difference? How do you differentiate between your ego and your heart?
And your ego is welcome to answer, because Lady Andy will be available to take your call.
We like the say. Girls, thank you so much.
Thank you
for this lovely conversation. Cheers. Sexies at home, make sure to tune in for the next episode of Let's